Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about cybersecurity strategies and solutions. We're focusing on priorities. Lamana is going to ask you, top priority for Verizon this year. What's the focus?
I mean, outside of the main thing, as you guys are well aware, with us making sure that we deliver 5G, the best 5G network and edge computing services, it's how do we help support the federal government with the transformation that they need to do to make sure that they have all this technology can be leveraged and used on their network, but leveraged also too in a secure manner, and also doing this within speed. Because one of the things, besides trying to get the technology and making sure that the federal government can transform all the network services that they're looking for, so they can get to these things like we were talking about a little bit earlier, with making sure each one of the operators, each one of the folks that are in the field have the right devices and things to be able to do their job on a day-to-day basis. We've got to do this in a secure manner. We got to make sure that we're providing this with all the right security things in place, make sure that we have all the right things done to ensure that the data itself is protected. But we also got to do that with speed. And there's that tricky balance, and this is one of the things we're going to make sure that we're working on with our partners, both on the vendor side and on the federal side, of how do we do this with speed, but also with security in mind. Technology moves at a rapid pace, as you all know. I mean, we've been working through 5G for a few years now, and now we're starting to look. I mean, you hear things about 6G, you hear things about all the things that you're doing with AR, VR, what we can do with the smart bases, and we're trying to realize all these things at the same time, and we want to make sure that we get all this technology out to our operators and users as quickly as we possibly can. But we also have
security really very important in this element, no question about that. We're going to run along here, Ron, so that we can get these priorities. And Ron, top couple of priorities. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on over there. Give us the top two.
Yeah. Across the Army, building on Sterling's comment, one of the top priorities is with data. As I said earlier, data is a strategic asset. So the Army is working on ensuring that all its data is visible, accessible, understandable, trusted, linked, interoperable, and secure. We call that Vaultus. And so tremendous effort on the data. And coupled with that, of course, is the migration to cloud environments, because in many cases, the legacy applications have the data stovepiped and really is not visible and accessible. So moving to a cloud environment, besides having greater visibility, accessibility of data, also improves your cybersecurity with the right sort of environment. Another priority is a unified SIEM, the System Information and Event Management, as we're really having that across both the enterprise and our deployed tactical environment. So they're not too different and untouchable. And as we really move towards that, that's incredibly important. Those are some, and I would tell you the last one is really working identity, credential, and access management, because underlying it all, do you have the identities? Again, a critical aspect of your zero trust architecture. And it's not just from a cybersecurity point of view, but it also supports auditability and a variety of other things with our weapons systems and our business systems.
That's a really good catch. That identity management environment, so critical as you're focusing on the data, but also who has the ability to access the data and who is it that's accessing that data. Bob, top two priorities for you at CISA.
Yeah, well, the first and foremost is going to be, our culture and recruiting and other issues. There's a huge gap in, IT recruiting or cyber recruiting that we're missing. I think we even see it on this call. We're all male gendered here. These are things that we need to start addressing. We need to start looking a lot differently in our recruiting strategy. And we need to make sure that we are first and foremost taking care of our people and addressing all of their various needs. If you're following some of the things on like ChatGPT and elsewhere, like things are changing and evolving so much faster than when a lot of us started. I mean, I started in, many years ago, building radios with my dad and getting into the Air Force, and the Air Force is responsible for my entire rest of my career. I can never thank the Air Force enough for taking a not so great kid and shaping him into something that, could accomplish some good things and maybe one or two great things in my life. So it's going to be people, and making sure that we're addressing the full life cycle. Like, how do you grow in your federal career? How do we take advantage of the DHS cybersecurity service? How do we maybe even look at making it easier to, come and leave from the federal service, but while you're here, have a super successful career. I think my other area, as we kind of go into, we can call it like, I think, I remember working for you many years ago. You were the first CIO I worked for at DHS. We kind of had like that first year plan, second year plan, third year plan. As I enter my second year here, it's really on providing more services. We have to talk honestly about succession planning as well. Who's going to take over for you. And then I think, one of my biggest priorities is to become one of the biggest consumers of CISA services. Like, I really want to be able to tell all my fellow CIOs, I'm taking advantage of the fast service, and I'm taking advantage of all our scanning services and all those other things. So that's where one of the areas that we're really concentrating on internally in my office is being a CISA customer, because I'm also a CIO, like all the other government CIOs that can take advantage of CISA services. And I really want to do that to augment my capabilities in-house as a relatively small office, small but mighty, as you could say. So those are kind of my areas right now as we grow the office and mature it, making sure that we're ready to support CISA, not just this year, but for the next decade. I think there's nothing greater than looking back when you leave a place and be like, wow, that engineering group I built at ICE and left in 2012 still has some elements of what I left there, but more importantly has continued to change and evolve and provide services. So that's
right.
What I really
and deliver rock solid services. And we really do appreciate, I know everyone appreciates your commitment to developing the various employees. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, and I'm going to ask Sterling to, if you want to sneak in your number one priority, but at the same time, really cover your state of the state and what it looks like 2 to 3 years from now, right? Well, what does it look like over the horizon? What's the demand signal that Rubric is getting?
That's a great question. And, just to answer this succinctly, the top priorities here, certainly to make sure that we are serving our DoD family the best awareness and education. We've touched on this several times here. The human component is the most important component today. We can have all of these solutions that have been implemented in all the right places, and all it takes is one wrong click. All it takes is one person walking in behind you. All it takes is one stolen piece of hardware, for instance. So awareness, offering exercises, rapid response teams, making sure our technical professionals have the information they have, and then understanding, helping our end users understand that human-driven component is the most important piece of it. As far as my vision for the future, man, that's tough. A lot of these solutions are really evolving so quickly. So I'm going to say, and somebody even said Chat GPT, and I was going to say, I use Chat GPT for all of my responses today, but that's of course not true. But literally AI and ML, these tools and solutions, as they grow in maturity, are going to be used in different ways in all of these solutions to take some of the human error out of some of these things when looking over logs and looking for anomalies and things like that. It can never replace the human part of it, but taking away some of those mistakes that we could make.
Good laser focus, and we really appreciate it. Felipe, what's it going to look like 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think at the core of everything is going to be implementing zero trust architecture, right? As far as the cybersecurity strategy and initiatives for which most things will be based. And the reason for that is that framework introduces tangible cybersecurity measures to safeguard data, users, and mission essential interests. I also see a growing interest on education and training. The rapid change in technology, or the pace of it, is not only impacting end users and those who consume technologies and services, it's also impacting those professionals who are, asked to go ahead and sell those and implement those and all of that. So, training and an emphasis on that is going to be important. And, that's not only going to happen to users and administrators. Well, I would say it's also going to happen to administrators and policymakers. We have to understand with new capabilities, we have new things at our disposal, and we have to adjust our policies and maybe loosen things up a bit. Mr. Costello here talked a lot about, just really being user-centric, focusing on what they need, delivering it with the latest capabilities possible. Obviously, I'm sure he's doing that responsibly. So again, just shifting in that mindset. Coming along with that, the proactive measures are going to be a focus. I think maybe it's a little bit behavioral, as far as the way humans respond when we put in a toy. We're going to look at it more. We're going to see, what happens if we turn this knob? Can we find more things? Particularly in cybersecurity capabilities, you implement a new tool, a new sensor. You're going to look at what can it find for you? Are we going to see something we haven't seen on our network before? And you're going to tailor that to, whatever your mission, or desires are, and whatever the watermarks that you want to reach. So I think that's important. And lastly, considering workforce and budget constraints, and touching on something Sterling and a lot of us have said here, is that artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be really important, right? So we talked a little bit about a couple of things. Utilizing it to, kind of replace or mitigate some of the human error, but not human judgment. But we also got to remember, if it's available for us to use, and we talked about ChatGPT, then I'm sure we all saw the news story not too long ago about how ChatGPT can be used to create polymorphic malware by anyone. And so that means, our adversaries have access to this tremendous tool, and with, these capabilities, they can never sleep, never eat, never, stop to take a break, but constantly create, new threat vectors, new problems for us to, try to thwart before, they cause real problems to our interests. So
no question, and a lot to get our head around. So I really appreciate the top line there. Lamont, you hinted at 6G. 2 to 3 years from now, is that what we're going to be talking about, 6G?
Thanks, Luke. Not sure, but right now we're going to be mainly focused on getting that 5G stuff out there. But I mean, I think, for the future, what I'm looking at, and I think it can't reiterate enough for what all we're saying here, but the partnership and discussions on how we all drive outcomes together, and the continued evolution of moving towards that, because that's going to help us ensure that we're securing these networks, securing the data, securing all the systems and mission sets that we need to be able to support for all of our end users. And I've seen a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of interactions and work between the industry and the federal government to make sure that we are going at this together, because there is that human element. We're talking about this where we know what we need to do to be able to support each other, to support the networks that need to be delivered, and how do we protect these networks, how do we protect that data, and then really discussing about outcomes more than just requirements, because when we really discuss about what Admiral Chase is looking for, Mr. Ponte is looking for, Bob Costello is looking for, when they're saying, I'm expecting you to deliver this, then we're able to bring the best and brightest of intelligence that we have from industry to work together to be able to secure our space. So,
and no question,
and outcomes.
No question, do it at the speed of mission as well. Bob, you're going to be in the role there in 2 years. Let's see, you'll have a 3-year tenure at that point. If I'm a new employee coming into CISA, sort of looking around, what can I expect? Well, what sort of your target environment that you want to have? What's it going to feel like when I show up for service?
Wow. Yeah. That's
just kind of leaning on that customer experience.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so I have some other things. I mean, there's so many things that you don't expect, as your career progresses. Like I left government service, and got a call back to interview and come back as the CIO here after I had left for about 6 months. I think, there's a couple of things. As a new employee, you want that experience to be smooth. You want them to get equipment on time. You want them to have all the resources available. I would really hope in 3 years, this office and parts of, our technology stack are operating at, a pretty mature level. Comparison to the other components of DHS. We are a component of DHS, so I'm always measuring my success against some of the bigger components that have been there
that's fair.
20 years. I would also say too that I would like to be this office to be viewed, even if I'm not here in 2 or 3 years, as, you know, one of the most agile and adaptable CIO offices in government. You know, that's really what I'm aiming for, is to model us against some of those great players in government, but also in industry. Because if we don't adapt, like, well, you've worked with me for a long time, you know, I'm always kind of changing things up. But if we don't adapt, then we will fail. Like, we have to adapt as fast as the enemy. And we have to also adapt as fast as our workforce. You know, people are coming in now with very different needs and wants than, you know, when I came in. Like, when I joined the Air Force, I didn't even have an email address. Now, if you had someone like join the military and not have an email, that would probably be really frustrating to people. And we have the same things here as well. So I have to really adapt to the mission force that we have here. You know, we're recruiting some of the best cyber minds, you know, in the country, and I need to make sure they have a good work experience. So those are the things that I hope in 2 or 3 years are just commonplace here. It says it's just a well-oiled machine. Those day-to-day ops just happen.
Well, you're well on your way to doing that, and we're really looking forward to seeing the journey. Ron, 2 to 3 years from now, what's your target aspiration? What's your target environment going to look like as we fast forward here?
So it really aligns with very much what Secretary Wormuth has laid out, because 2 of her top priorities are network modernization and transforming the Army to be a data-centric Army. And really, it's about, you know, decision making with that data. And those are absolutely related. And underlying the network modernization is a variety of 45 plus initiatives that we're really capturing under our zero trust strategy as we're moving forward. And that is incredibly important. And we will make substantial progress in the next 2 to 3 years. And then, of course, as we modernize, as the others have talked about, the workforce is incredibly important. The Army has laid out a people strategy: acquire, develop, employ, and retain. And that's both for the military and civilian. And as you work through that, how do we really bring along that workforce that we have, in addition to what's the right recruiting environment to bring in the young men and women that are recent college graduates, that bring the new skill sets as we move into a software-defined wide area network and a variety of the technologies that are inherent with the new workforce coming out of the colleges and universities. So that's where I see us being in 2 to 3 years. Of course, the workforce would be a long-term journey, but you got to get at it every day.
Absolutely, and line yourself up. It sounds like you have a nice, crisp roadmap to get there as well. Admiral Chase, take us home. 2 to 3 years from now, what are you expecting your operating environment to look like?
Thanks, Luke. I really appreciate this. This is an exciting time to be in cyber. There's a whole lot of change going on. You know, we're seeing, automated and weaponized vulnerabilities coming at us faster and faster. As we try and manage through all this change, our number one goal is to ensure resiliency of DoD's missions. So 3 things to keep in mind as we do that. First is everything we're doing, is it enhancing mission readiness somewhere along the line? Commercially, we'd say that, is this adding to the business value in some way? Second principle is what we're doing empowering the tactical level in the DoD, the folks with hands on keyboards, your sysadmins, our local defenders, because we have an opportunity to exponentially increase our speed by taking care of it at the point at which we can prevent other aspects of having to go back and do remediation. And then third, and it's been mentioned several times, as we move into zero trust, this is an opportunity for us to enable situational awareness for all of our mission areas, as well as allow for those data-driven decisions. And is it really tracking toward reducing the complexity? How do we take steps in the meantime to translate, standardize, and normalize those things to, as I think Sterling said, to get after the machine learning and bring AI to bear for some of these automated problems that are already being thrown against us. But thank you for the opportunity.
We really do appreciate it. And I want to thank all of our guests today for taking the time out of their busy schedules and for your service and fighting the good fight and keeping us all safe. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on the show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make the program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that are tuning in every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.